Hey guys, this is my K24 build from start to finish. I'm not going to talk too much, just explain some stuff that I didn't record enough to get some context. Sorry I sound a bit like an airplane pilot, but bear with me. So, right here I was taking the crank out because I had to change my thrust washers because I ordered ones too big, but before I put them in, I put RTV and they dried up, so I just had to remove all the old RTV here. And then I just cleaned the crank and cleaned the bearings again because they had assembly lube, and then I just reinstalled all of them. Bearings are in on the girdle and on the block. All squirters are in. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna put a thin film of the assembly lube. K20 oil pump, so you don't have to do this. I decided to just because I wanted to rev high reliably. You don't have to port it either. It's just more reassurance that you're not going to cavitate your pump. And then I'm going to get porting of the corner in here because it's pretty much a hard turn. Your decision to port can be based on your build, so if your power band is mainly higher in the revs, then it's probably a good idea to do. So I gotta shave it down where I've marked it. Just gonna get a screw it in. So K24s will have this small port that will be blocked with this little thing that you can see here. And if you convert it to a K20 pump, you need to remove it and block it off, otherwise you're going to lose oil pressure because the K24 pump is much bigger and it sits right over that port. Not all of those ports are going to be already threaded from factory, some might not have it, so you'll just have to tap it. Just block it off with a 12mm with some RTV on it. Here. So here I'm just removing the cam triggers at the back of from the back of the cams. They're just removed with an Allen head and what. So you just need to transfer them if you're changing cams, and if you're not, you just leave them on obviously. And what they do is they tell the cam sensor what position the camshaft's at. So you can't really get them wrong. So torquing these down, the intake side with the VTC gear is 80 foot-pounds, and the exhaust side, which you'll see in a second, is 50. You can see that the notch lines up with the part of the cam that sticks out. Oh yeah. Just installing pistons, so just make sure your cylinders are clean. It's probably better if you have some automatic transmission fluid because that's a detergent, it'll clean it out real good. Otherwise just use some brake clean and toilet paper because it doesn't leave as much lint. I opted for a Wiseco ring compressor because they're tapered. It's just less of a hassle compared to the ratcheting ones where you have to make sure it's real tight and then you have to hit the piston in. Although the downside is it only is for one cylinder size, which I don't mind. Just setting up the rest of the pistons with their rings. I did file these rings, although I didn't put the footage in. It's actually in the first video for this swap. So rod bolts. I did have aftermarket rods and they came with ARP stretch bolts. So I had to use a stretch gauge and torque them the right way. There's plenty of videos on how to do it. If you're just using OEM rods, you'll just have to torque them down. You don't have to stretch them like you'll see.
Yes.
Just using the stretch gauge. Again, if you're using OEM, you won't have to worry about this. Otherwise, yeah, you'll just have to buy one of these gauges. If you have aftermarket rods, they'll normally come with stretch bolts. You can tell because they have dimples on the top and the bottom, and you can just watch a video online on how to do it. So if you decide to run a K20 pump, you'll need all the K20 pump components. So you'll need the windage tray, which I just put on, oil chain guide, you'll need the chain and the chain tensioner as well. So all K20 stuff pretty much. If you're wondering how long it took to do this build, I built the engine in maybe 3 weeks in total, although I had the engine for the past 2 years and I disassembled it only last year and got around to building it. Most of it was just waiting around for parts, especially if I had a wrong part, I just had to order another one and wait for it to come in. So here we go. So here what I'm doing is I'm claying the block, so I'm just putting 2 pieces of clay on each side of the piston. Then you close up the engine, you put the head studs on, you put the head down with the head gasket and everything, you put the cams on. You don't have to put all the head studs, just that side of the piston. I only used 4. And then you tighten the cams down, time the motor, and you give it a few rotations so the valve will put an imprint on the clay. You can see right here that my VTC cam gear is open, so if you do this you'll have to lock it at 0 degrees, so you'll need a set of limiters. So just finished claying it, gonna remove it, and then you measure it with a caliper to see how far your piston to valve clearance is. If it's very small, you're better off going for a lower profile cam. This is a good idea if you're deciding to run a high compression motor. If you're running what I'm putting in, these are just the lost motion assembly springs. And if you're not sure what they are, they're just for the third rocker to bounce on when you're not in VTEC. We torque the head 3 times, 30, 50, then 90 foot-pounds with about 15 minutes to an hour in between each time. Keep in mind, before you torque down the VTC gear on your cam, you will have to unlock the gear. So if you're wondering how to do that, you can search it up, or just feel free to hit us up on Instagram if you have any questions on these things. Just timing the motor here, I decided to go with a hybrid racing timing chain tensioner. They are pretty expensive, but it's just some good reassurance because the Honda ones are infamous for slipping and skipping teeth, and you know, timing's the last thing that you want to mess up, so yeah. And it is finally built. Oh man. So now I pretty much just gotta clean up the oil pan, timing cover, and the valve cover. They're just mocked up on because I just need to scrape off all this old gasket. It's actually just the 2 nuts on each side because there's a stud on each side that's holding it on. Just got to put new gasket sealer, same as this. I might get a new timing cover, so that's why I haven't actually sealed this one yet. And the valve cover, just got to change the gasket and clean it up and repaint it and all that type of stuff. I'm thinking about repainting the whole block, which I'll probably do, just so it's nice and clean since we're painting the whole engine bay. So yeah.